Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. Kamadhenu, the cow of endless giving. In the ancient age, when the world was sustained not only by effort, but by the presence of divine abundance, there existed a being whose nature embodied nourishment itself, a creature not bound by limitation, but flowing with the fullness of life. This was Kamadhenu, the sacred cow, whose form carried within it the power to provide all that was needed, not through force, but through endless giving. She was not as other creatures who grazed upon the earth and returned only what they consumed, but was a being of divine origin, born from the cosmic churning of the ocean, where gods, in Asura, sought the essence of immortality. From those depths, where all potentials were stirred into being, Kamadhenu arose, radiant and complete, carrying within her the ability to nourish the world without depletion. Her presence was not confined to a single place, but she came to dwell in the hermitage of sages, most notably with the rishi, Vasishtha, whose life of discipline and devotion aligned with the nature of her gift. In his care, she lived not as a possession, but as a sacred companion, her presence sustaining not only the body, but the balance of life itself. Kamadhenu's nature was one of continual giving, for from her flowed milk that nourished. Yet beyond this, she held within her the power to manifest whatever was needed. When called upon, she could bring forth food, riches, or protection, not as an act of excess, but as an extension of her being, responding to the need of those who lived in harmony with the divine order. The hermitage of Vasishtha was sustained through her presence, its people never lacking, its offerings always complete. What was required was always provided. Yet such abundance did not go unnoticed, and there came a time when King Vishwamitra, a ruler of great power, beheld Kamadhenu and desired her for himself. He saw in her not the sacred nature of giving, but the potential for control, believing that such a being should belong to one who held authority over the land. He sought to take her from the sage, commanding that she be bought from him. Yet, Kamadhenu was not a being who could be possessed in such a way. When he attempted to seize her, she resisted, not through violence alone, but through the manifestation of her own power, bringing forth sources that defended her, revealing that her nature was not one of submission, but of divine autonomy. The king, though powerful, could not overcome her, for her strength did not lie in dominance, but in alignment with the greater order of life. In time, Vishwamitra came to understand that what Kamadhenu represented could not be taken by force, that true abundance does not arise from possession, but from harmony with the forces that sustain life. Kamadhenu remained with Vashita, continuing her role as a source of nourishment, her presence a reminder that the world is sustained not only by labor, but by the gifts that flow when balance is maintained. She became known not only as a provider, but as a mother of all cattle, a being whose essence extended into the living creatures that nourished human life. The cow itself came to be seen as sacred, not merely for what it gives, but for what it represents, the principle of sustaining without depletion, of giving without destruction. In every act of nourishment, in every offering made, in every field sustained by her lineage, there remained the presence of Kamadhenu, the one who embodies the truth that life is supported through reciprocity, through respect, and through the understanding that what is given must be honored. Her story endured as a reflection of the deeper balance within the world, where abundance flows not from taking, but from the alignment of all things in their proper place. Thus, she stands as both creature and principle, a living expression of nourishment whose presence continues wherever life is sustained through care, reverence, and the sacred act of giving. Story 2. The White Stag, the one who leads beyond the known. In the deep forest where mist lingers between the trees and the earth holds the memory of ancient paths, there appears at times a creature unlike any other, a being whose presence is both rare and unmistakable. This is the White Stag, whose form is known not through constant sight, but through fleeting encounter, a figure that emerges at the threshold between the known and the unseen. Its coat shines pale against the dark of the forest, its antlers rising like branching crowns, and its movement is neither hurried nor hesitant, but deliberate, as though guided by a purpose beyond the visible world. The stag does not belong to the ordinary rhythms of the hunt, for it is not pursued in the same way as other animals, nor does it move in accordance with the patterns that govern the forest. It appears when it will, often at moments when the world itself seems to shift, when the air grows still and the path ahead becomes uncertain. Those who encounter it do not find themselves in ordinary circumstances, for the presence of the white stag signals a crossing, a movement from one state of being into another, from what is known into what must be discovered. When the white stag is seen, it does not remain for long, but moves away, drawing the eye, drawing the step, inviting pursuit without command. Those who follow it do not do so lightly, for to step after the stag is to leave behind the certainty of familiar ground. The forest deepens, the paths become unclear, and what was once known begins to fall away, replaced by a sense of movement into something older, something that cannot be easily named. The stag does not lead in a straight line, but weaves through the land, guiding those who follow into places they would have not found on their own. It may lead to a hidden clearing where the light falls differently, where the world seems to pause, or to the edge of a body of water, still and reflective, where the boundary between worlds feels thin. In some tellings, it leads to the entrance of the other world, where time does not move as it does among humans, where what is encountered cannot be brought back unchanged. Those who follow do not always return as they were, for the journey itself alters them, revealing truths that were not visible before. The stag does not speak, yet its guidance is clear, for it draws forth the act of following, the willingness to step beyond what is known and into what must be experienced. When the white stag disappears, it does so without warning, vanishing into the forest as though it had never been there, leaving behind no trace but the memory of its presence and the path that was taken. Those who have followed it often find themselves in a place different from where they began, not only in location, but in understanding. The forest, though the same in form, is no longer the same in meaning, for it has revealed something beyond its surface. The stag does not remain as a constant guide, but appears only when the moment requires it, when the crossing must be made. It is not a creature to be captured, nor a being to be held, but a presence that exists in movement, in transition, in the spaces between what is and what is becoming. The people came to understand that the white stag is not merely an animal, but a messenger, a guide that leads not through instruction, but through invitation, showing the way by walking it. In every story where it appears, it marks a turning point, a moment when the path changes, when the ordinary gives way to the extraordinary. Thus, the white stag remains as a figure of passage, a being that walks between worlds, whose presence reminds that life does not remain fixed, but moves continually into new ground. To see it is to be called, and to follow it is to accept the journey into what lies beyond sight, where understanding is not given, but discovered through the act of walking the path it reveals. Story 3. White Buffalo Woman, the one who brings the sacred way. In the time when the people moved across the plains and the world stretched wide beneath the sky, there came a period of great hardship, when the buffalo had grown scarce and the people faced hunger and uncertainty. The winds carried dust where once had been movement, and the herds that sustained life no longer appeared as they had before. In this time of need, when the people looked across the land and found little to answer their prayers, 2 hunters were sent out to search for game, traveling far from their camp into the open expanse. As they moved across the plains, they saw in the distance a figure approaching, not as one of their own, but as something set apart, her presence both human and more than human. As she came nearer, they beheld a woman clothed in white, her form radiant, her movements steady and unhurried, as though she walked in harmony with all that surrounded her. One of the hunters, seeing her beauty, allowed his thoughts to turn away from respect, Yet, as he approached her with his intention, he was overtaken and reduced to nothing, his body consumed in a manner that left only bone and warning behind. The other hunter, seeing what had occurred, lowered himself in reverence, understanding that this being was not to be approached without humility. She spoke to him, not with anger, but with clarity, instructing him to return to the people and prepare them for her arrival. When she came to the camp, the people gathered, recognizing the presence of something sacred, something that moved beyond the ordinary. She entered among them not as one seeking recognition, but as one bringing what had been needed. She carried with her the sacred pipe, the chanumpa, and through it she revealed the way in which the people were to live in relation to the world, to one another, and to the forces that sustain life. She taught them the ceremonies, the ways of prayer, the manner in which the pipe was to be used, not as an object, but as a connection between the people and the greater order of existence. Through her teachings, the people were given a path, a structure through which life could be lived with balance and respect. She instructed them that all things were connected, and that animals, the land, and the people themselves were part of a single whole, and that to live in harmony with this truth was to ensure the continuation of life. The buffalo, she told them, would return, but only if they remembered what had been given, if they honored the relationship between themselves and the world around them. When her teachings were complete, she did not remain among them, but prepared to leave, walking away from the camp in the same steady manner in which she had arrived. As she moved across the land, she transformed, first into a black buffalo, then a red buffalo, then a yellow buffalo, and finally into a white buffalo calf, each form carrying meaning, each reflecting a different aspect of life and its cycles. In this final form, she disappeared from sight, yet her presence did not leave the world. The people remembered what had been given, holding the teachings within their ceremonies, within their way of life, carrying forward the knowledge that had been brought to them in their time of need. The buffalo returned, the herds once again moved across the plains, sustaining the people they had before, yet now with a deeper understanding of the relationship that made such sustenance possible. The sacred pipe remained, not as a relic, but as a living connection, a reminder of the covenant between the people and the world they inhabited. Thus, White Buffalo remained not as a figure of the past, but as a continuing presence within the life of the people. Her teachings, carried forward through generations, her arrival remembered as the moment when the path was revealed. In every ceremony, in every prayer offered through the pipe, there remained the echo of her voice, the enduring truth that life is sustained through respect, through balance, and through the honoring of all that lives. Story 4. The Deer Mother, the Keeper of the Living Herd. In the wide and windswept lands where the steppe stretches beyond sight and the sky rests close upon the earth, there lives a presence older than the memory of any single people, a being who moves not as a creature bound to one place, but as the spirit within all that roams the land. This is the Deer Mother, whose form is known in glimpses, whose body carries the grace of the deer and the knowing of something far beyond it. She is not seen in the ordinary movement of herds, though she walks among them, guiding without being followed, shaping without being held. The animals of the steppe move across the land in great numbers. Their paths winding through seasons of abundance and scarcity, yet their survival is not left to chance alone, for within their movement there is order, and within that order there is presence. The Deer Mother exists within this rhythm, watching, guiding, ensuring that the herds do not vanish, that life continues across the wide and open world. Her antlers rise like branching trees, her body moves with a quiet strength, and her presence is felt more than it is seen, known through the balance that remains even in harsh seasons. The people who live upon the steppe understand that the animals they depend on are not separate from the forces that sustain them, that each life taken must be met with respect, and that the herds are not endless unless they are honored. The Deer Mother stands as a keeper of this understanding, for it is said that she watches those who hunt, seeing not only their actions but their intention. When the hunt is carried out with care, when only what is needed is taken, and when the life given is acknowledged, the herd continues to return, their numbers steady, their presence assured. But when the balance is broken, when greed overtakes necessity, the Deer Mother withdraws her guidance and the animals become scarce, their paths shifting beyond reach. In this way, she does not act through command, but through the shaping of the world itself, allowing the consequences of imbalance to reveal themselves. The hunters, seeing the change, come to understand that the land responds not only to action, but to the spirit in which that action is carried out. That survival depends not only on skill, but on relationship. The deer mother remains within this exchange, unseen yet present, holding the balance between giving and taking. At times, it is said that she reveals herself, appearing at the edge of sight, her form clear for a moment before dissolving into the movement of the land. Those who see her do not speak of it lightly, for such an encounter is not given without reason. It marks a moment of recognition, a reminder of the presence that exists beyond the visible, a call to remember the order that sustains life. The herds continue to move, the seasons continue to turn, and the people live within the cycle, guided by the understanding that what feeds them is not theirs alone, but part of the greater whole. The dear mother does not remain as a figure to be sought, but as a presence that must be remembered, a force that exists within the ongoing life of the land. In every migration of the herd, in every successful hunt, and in every season where life endures, there remains her influence, quiet yet unwavering. She is not separate from the animals, not from the land, but exists within both, ensuring that life continues in balance. Thus, the dear mother stands as a keeper of the living herd, the one who holds the rhythm of survival, whose presence reminds that life is sustained not through taking alone, but through the honoring of all that walks the earth. Daily Thread for May 9th. Sacred beings walk beside the human path. What nourishes must be honored. Life teaches through every creature. Respect sustains what feeds us. Balance lives between taking and giving. Guidance appears when it is needed. The unseen shapes the visible world. All life is bound in quiet relationship.